Hey, good morning, Jared, Nate of the eCarrierCheck show. Excited to be here. It's Friday, Nate. It's been a wonderful week. We've impacted a lot of lives and had some great conversations. I'm excited to talk about some of those conversations with you too, especially in today's topic. We got Charles Mundy on. I'm super jacked to talk to him, and we'll get in with him here in just a sec. Honestly, I would say Charles is truly the godfather of mentoring. I really think that. We'll talk more about Charles here in a second, but I can't get enough of this guy. I'm really excited he's on. But Nate, give me a rundown, man. We've talked to a lot of people. What's the common theme you're seeing this week, and how have we impacted some people this week?
Yeah. You know, obviously did we lose Charles here?
We might have lost Charles.
No, I'm here.
Oh, he's here.
Got him. Okay.
Yeah, I put my camera off so I can grab some water real quick.
Gotcha. You're good, man. Good. But sales, man. You know, we talk about a lot of sales. You know, everyone's kind of dealing with the same thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like, you know, some of the impacts we did is kind of helping people push, understand, you know, get past that comfort zone of yours. You know, we talked about some outside sales yesterday, and we got this one guy we talked with. He's going to start going door to door, shaking hands, kind of different from just your average cold call, your average cold email, right? So I'm really excited to hear his story in about, you know, a month or so to see how those door to door shows went.
Yeah. I think when people and I get this because everyone has a rent, you know, everyone has a mortgage.
Yep.
But I think when people start transitioning their business from I've got to have money to I need to have better relationships.
Right.
I think that's when that mindset starts to change because we need to be all on the same page and try to help people and really develop those deeper relationships. Exactly. You know what I mean? Because right now everything is really surface level relationships. You know, how do we take it to that next step?
Right.
You know, and really that's what we're talking about. Sales is essentially how do I have a conversation with somebody in order to start doing a business relationship and helping them get to their goals so that I can get to my goals.
Right. And someone out there needs you. It's just a matter of fact of going out there and putting yourself out there, getting out there. Right. You know, with the year coming to an end here shortly, you know, I think it's important to kind of get out there and, you know, start making those sales, kind of prepare yourself for that next year.
Yeah. Q4 is an interesting time here. You know what I mean? We've got some crazy stuff going on, and you know the government shutdowns potentially this weekend if they can't get it together. That could impact thousands of employees from the government. I've got a buddy that actually works for the USDA, and he potentially may not have a job come Monday, or at least he'll be furloughed or laid off in some regards. The government will figure it out, of course, but it's one of those things where just what's it look like, right? But I got to say, one of my favorite guys, Charles Mundy, I honestly, truly, we've met this guy a couple years back, built a great relationship with this guy, and we have gotten more comments and says, that's Charles Mundy, that's my mentor. Mm-hmm. This guy is my favorite. He really just has a way to impact people's lives. Yeah. And that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about what's the next 3 months look like and how do we impact lives. Yeah.
And super excited too, because Charles, you have one of the best followings I've ever seen. I can't tell you how many times someone reaches out to me, Charles Mundy, right? It's always Charles Mundy. So I love that. You're changing lives out there, man. Super appreciate that.
Charles, how's it going, man? Tell us how your Friday is.
Oh man, it's busy already, man. So it's just real busy. I'm pivoting in all aspects now. I have as you know, I've been putting on the social media that we have our in-person trainings now at the Logistics Learning Center here. I'm in my office now, and I'm going over to the conference room to do some training, the Logistics Learning Center, and then I'm pivoting into warehousing. So I'm partnering with some guys with a 24,000 square foot warehouse as well as a 5,000 square foot warehouse to do inbound storage, outbound, consolidating, cross-docking, transloading, everything. So we're getting racks in there, we're getting ventilators. So when the trucking market is down, you can still pivot in the transportation industry to still make money.
Yeah. So this is an interesting subject, and we're going to kind of stay right here because it really is interesting. You obviously have, in the 2 years that we've met, you've changed even your business model from the online, and now you're doing it in person, which I love, by the way. I'm a big fan of this. Not a lot of people do this. And obviously you're doing warehousing. How important is it to be able to be flexible and pivot in today's world?
That's a great question and a good point. It's very important because if you put all your eggs in one basket, let's say for example, the transportation industry and logistics, right? And you only do one thing, like trucking or dispatching or brokering in one. Well, what happens when your space starts to go down? Your eggs is in one basket. You don't have any other alternatives. You may have to go back to your 9 to 5.
Mm.
But if you study the industry, the transportation industry and logistics, there are so many things to do to pivot within the same ecosystem of transportation or logistics, I should say. Dispatching, freight brokering, trucking, intermodal, warehousing and distribution, 3PL, government contracts. I mean, global logistics, international trade compliance. There's so many different choices to make. If you get educated in all of those things, then you should have somewhere to go when what you're currently in starts to slow down. You can make adjustments and still keep pace and stay successful. So
yeah, it definitely. I know with us, I look at eCarrierCheck. When we first started, it was just me and a programmer, and then I look at it.
Trevor, was it Trevor?
Yes, T Mahone, man. This guy's still here. He's a wonderful person. But I look at us in the updates, the pivots that we've accomplished in the last 18 months, and it was a necessity. It was something that, hey, we're sticking in this space, but guess what? We need to go into more sales, or we need to go into more content, or more a deeper database, and we've been able to make those pivots as the economy has been changing, and it's been fruitful, right? It's been one of those things where you can still make money. Is it tougher? Absolutely.
Of course,
absolutely it is. If Charles, if you were going to kind of break it down, obviously, educate people, you teach people, you try to make them the best version of themselves, which I truly love about you. What can they do in the next, say, 60 days as people are getting into this industry? And there's people still jumping into this industry. We see them all the time. What can they do to kind of set themselves apart, or at least start to be a part of this industry, even in a down market?
Great question. So, and as you say that, I've had about 4 or 5 signups today to the online course and about 2 to the in-person training. We have our next in-person training for dispatching and freight brokering, October the 16th, that week, 9 a.m. to noon on the dispatching side, and then 1 to 4 on the freight broker side. But in Q4, in quarter 4, we have 4 quarters in a year, right? And the best thing for a person to do to close out the year is to continue to educate yourself, get as much knowledge in your industry as possible, because even I don't know everything. I'll be the first to admit that. But a wise person knows that they don't know everything, or that they don't know everything, So continue to educate yourself in your particular space, and see what other areas in your industry, or what I call ecosystem, that you can tap into that'll still stay related to your industry, right? So not just so I often tell students and people that I talk to that see me outside and in society, that the easiest barrier to entry in transportation is through dispatching. There are less requirements. Just get your business license, get some knowledge, EIN, LLC, things like that, and you're off and running, and get some formal training. And then next is brokering, and then trucking and all these other things. So trucking is like the worst, because there's so much stuff you got to deal with. So but educating yourself, I like what you said, make them a better version of themselves. I never thought of that. I'm stealing that one from you. But make them a better version of themselves. So making yourself a better version of who you are is through education, but not only education, but application. So education is not good unless you apply what you've learned. Now, will you have an opportunity to do that in this industry? Of course you will. Whether you dispatch, whether you broker, whether you truck, whether you do anything. And you mentioned your friend at the USDA. That's a shipper lead right there for all you brokers. So, you can reach out to Jared's friend over at USDA and try to procure a shipper. So, but and just casual conversation with people. I talked to a guy the other day. I was in Walmart. Turns out he was one of the logistics people over at. We have a we have a large Target distribution center in Suffolk, Virginia. And he was one of the managers over there. And I said, well, I have a platform where I teach dispatchers and brokers, trucking and everything logistics. He said, well, if you got any trucks that can get over here and help me. I'm like, I don't personally, but I know people who have trucks. So in addition to educating and application, another term, networking. You never know who you never know who you'll meet, right? So networking is also good. So those are some key base level indicators of how you can close out your year and plan for Q1 of the following year, right? So understanding the seasons in whatever aspect of the industry that you're in, whether you're in dispatching, brokering, trucking, understand your season and how it works in those quarters, and just get a better feel of everything. So
you talk about networking. I think this is probably one of the things that Nate and I we're big fans of. We like to meet new people and hear people's stories. In your world, how much of that is done online versus in person? And is there ways for people to get out and in person and actually do some of that networking that you've seen?
Of course. For me, the majority of it is online, but as I gradually phase into the in-person program, because a lot of people have been telling me this is one of the main reasons I'm starting in person, because they say, well, I learn better in front of someone in person, where I can ask the questions intimately as opposed to online, right? So I said, okay, I decided to do in person because I got enough or a high volume of those types of responses to warrant me doing the in-person, right? The online is going to always be the online because it's self-paced modules, go at your own pace, take the test, come into the Zooms and things like that. But that in-person personal touch, some people are visual learners. They learn better in person where they can, shake my hand, touch, ask questions, things like that. And I get that. So I'm trying to appease, as an instructor, you try to appease to your audience, whether they're online or in person. So, but to answer your question, the percentage, I would say about now, I would say 70% online, 30% in person. But the pendulum is gonna switch. Either it's gonna balance out or it's gonna switch. So
I totally agree. I think we just need, it's good to be around somebody. If Nate and I didn't work in the same office, I would miss him severely. It would be terrible. I couldn't give him a hug. I couldn't cry on his shoulders. But honestly, one of those things is you just have to be around people, I think, you know what I mean? And I love that you've transitioned some of your business model to that in person. We had what's the location of the in-person training? Where is your shop at? Where's your
So is that, can I type in the chat somewhere, or where am I?
Absolutely. I believe you can. If not, we can
I can type for you too.
Yeah, I was gonna say we don't have the
I see a private chat. I think that goes just to you guys.
Yeah.
You can copy and paste that. I'm gonna put that.
I got you.
Where do you put it? And we can.
I'll put it right here.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You see that?
The Learning Center, 3101 American. I don't see.
So it's 3101. I'll type the full address. It's the Exodus Logistics Learning Center, 3101 American Legion Road, Suite 21A, Chesapeake, Virginia, 23321. And I'm finishing up as I'm saying it. I'm actually typing it at the same time.
Nice.
And there we go. You can copy and paste that to the regular so everyone else can see it.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
And I use in my trainings, I use your guys' some of your guys' material in eCarrierCheck, because the last time Nate and I had a Zoom, it went very well. We were bouncing back and forth and navigating, because I'm still getting used to the experience of the new interface of eCarrierCheck, and I actually love it. It's a good platform. It's the best sourcing tool in the country.
Thank you. We appreciate the plug.
Yeah, it's not only the plug, it's the outlet and the whole room. So, but yeah, because it does what it's supposed to do. You source the carriers, you source the shippers and the brokers, and you connect the two. And then you have enough vetting material in there to make the decision either as a dispatcher, carrier, broker, shipper. So I mean, you guys have done my job for me. All I gotta do is just pay for the subscription and follow the path.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, we're constantly just getting better, and obviously, we talked on your class. You can now vet carriers for free on eCarrierCheck, which is huge. But obviously, we all, at ELLC, and eCarrierCheck, we're continuously attracting new people to this industry. But while we're doing that, we're still building relationships with, those freight brokers or dispatchers that we've known for 2 years. So they're a little bit more well seasoned in this industry, right?
Yeah.
So some of the, the feedback that I get from them, they're 2 years in, they're still wondering, what can I do to provide more value for my shippers or for my carriers? And I think, with the end of the year coming, what are some things that they could be doing for those more seasoned dispatchers or freight brokers to be doing with their carriers or shippers to maybe add some more value next year?
Just continue to education. Great. That's a great question. Education. Perform. So you're saying as far as what can the dispatchers, brokers do to add value to their constituents or their clients, right? Yeah, just so the brokers that I train, I try to train them to do brokering. This is becoming unusual these days, but do brokering the right way. You have a lot of brokering done the wrong way these days. It's almost commonplace to be a corrupt broker, right? Which is sad. So I train my students to just do it the right way. Follow the steps that the FMCSA requires, and you should be fine. Anything outside of that is uncivilized, right? So, and the same for the dispatchers. Dispatchers don't behave as if you were a broker. Don't try to post a load on a load board. You cannot do that. You are a dispatcher. You're not a broker, right? So you have dispatchers who get loads from brokers. They'll get an email with all this load list, and then they'll go to post it on a load board. You have no authority to do that whatsoever, right? You only work with your carriers to book loads for them. So the point is do it the right way. And I get students in my classes who come from other trainings, and they'll say, well, this is how I was taught. Well, you were taught wrong, right? Or this is what my authority warrants me to do as a freight broker. I arrange for transportation. I'm a logistics provider. I procure freight from shippers, and then I broker them to the carrier. Okay, that's the definition of a broker. But have you tendered a load? Have you ran it through a TMS system, produced a rate com for the carrier? Have you bidded on a load or quoted a lane or any of that stuff? Yeah. Well, no, I haven't. Well, then what are you doing? Right. So I'm trying to make sure that brokers do it correctly. Dispatchers do it correctly, even truckers and all the other courses that I have. So, by the way, speaking of which, coming in 2025, Exodus University, we're going to have a huge university, Exodus University. That's going to be a big thing, and I'll keep you guys plugged into that. Yeah. But Nate, to answer your question, just stay the course correctly for whatever it is you're doing, dispatching, brokering, trucking. Just do it the right way, because at some point, I believe in karma. It's going to come back to bite you. Right? It's going to come back to bite you. If you do whatever you put in the atmosphere, be it positive or negative, it's going to come back to you. So knowing that, why not put positive energy out there, knowing it's going to come back? What I mean, it's common sense, right? So I don't get it, but
yeah, no, I agree for sure. And for those well-seasoned brokers, like yourself, Jared, when you were broking back in the day. How are you adding value to your clients, those shippers, those carriers, obviously you're looking at you're going over your financial, you're going over, your marketing, these are all things that we're reviewing before the end of the year as to how to better yourself.
Yeah.
So what advice could you give to those more seasoned brokers?
I'm a big fan of, no different than Charles just said. I love to continue to educate. I think here's something that I think is really important is I think it's important that you define reality for your clients. And what I mean by that, a great leader defines reality. And what I mean by that is how do we, hey, here's some reporting and here's reality, right? I was only 88% on time this year, but here's my next steps in order to get there. And Charles said it right. Do things correctly, do things right, and define. If you were challenged with double brokering this year, that was an issue, right? Who got scammed? That a lot of people can raise their hands this year because it was so prevalent. It was so insane. And so, I think it's important to just be completely vulnerable with your relationships and say, here's my steps, and keep it simple and short. We don't need 25 steps. Here are 3 things I'm going to do next year in order to be better. Here's where we're at, and defining reality, I think, is one of those things that is really important. I think that'll at least let people know, hey, I'm vulnerable. Here's something that I'm seeing that are some challenges in my own business, and here's maybe some things that maybe you could help me with as well.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that's really important. The other thing I really like to do, and I'm a big fan of, is sharing what technology you use, in order to try to be successful, or in order to make you have the processes in place that you're using in order to be successful, right? I mean, there's a lot of Charles, obviously there's a lot of technology out there. It's almost a noisy space, to be honest with you. Betting and TMSs and all this stuff. What advice do you give to your new students as they come in? What technology should they have? Kind of some of the basics, and what are some of those things that you say, hey, here's 2 or 3 things that you need. Yesterday, I'll give you an interesting example, and I just want to kind of throw this on your lap and see where you go with it. We had a guy, we sat there, and in fact, I still have it on the back of this sheet. And I said, tell me what technology you're using. And he went through all of them. He's 60 days in, by the way. It was $1,800 a month in technology costs. You know what my favorite part? And I didn't sell him eCarrierCheck at all. We actually just talked shop. I really was trying to provide him value and educate him on maybe some things that are out there. We literally didn't even bring up eCarrierCheck, but we just kind of went through the list and said, here's probably what I would use if I was a broker at this point. But give us a rundown, Charles. Technology is a big component of today's world. What do we use in order to go from there?
So I'll give it on 2 sides, dispatcher and broker side. So when you first come into dispatching, right? If you enroll in our platform online, we share, as part of our online 90-day ongoing training, we share technology with our students. We give them access to the load boards and things like that, tools and resources and forms and documents. But if you were outside of that looking in as an independent freight dispatcher, I often advise new individuals coming in, you go with what your budget can afford you, what the monies can afford you. If you can't afford to purchase a subscription to a load board, or you can afford to, first of all, dispatchers should need a TMS system. A simple spreadsheet will work, because I often tell my dispatchers, if you can handle, let's say, 3 to 5 trucks, no more than 10, your a TMS system is an overkill. You can use a simple spreadsheet with functions and formulas and pretty much manage that, and then leverage platforms like eCarrierCheck, because eCarrierCheck is going to do most of what the technology is doing. It already does it for you. And the fact that Nate just mentioned that you can vet carriers now for free. Okay, bye-bye Carrier 411, bye-bye Safer Watch, bye-bye all these other different technologies. If I get it wrapped into one platform, so you're going to be like a smorgasbord or a golden corral of technology, eCarrierCheck, because everything is outside. Yeah, you got me hungry now. Right? So everything is basically programmed and integrated. That's the word I'm looking for. Integrated into eCarrierCheck, a one-stop shop. So if you can put all that, if you can put all the functionality that you need as a broker or a dispatcher or a trucking company into one software, then the floodgates will open. And that's what eCarrierCheck, I'm assuming that's what you guys are moving towards, right? Yep. So that's all you need. Yep. It provides the functionality. Now, what do you need as a dispatcher? Okay, well, you need access to a load board, because new dispatchers are not going to be able to go to direct shippers representing their carriers. That's not going to happen. They're going to laugh at you, right? So you need access to a load board. Well, how do you get a load board if you're a dispatcher? Remember, dispatchers don't have MC numbers. Well, obviously, you're going to use your carrier's MC number with their permission, right? I want to make sure I say that. I don't want to promote illegal behavior, right? So with their permission. So then you pay for the subscription. So that's the one software you're going to need, and you're going to be dealing with the upfront spot market loads on the load board. You're not dealing with contract loads rates. You're dealing with spot rates, right? Coming to the load boards that were rejected by the trucking companies. They come into the spot market now, right? So what would you need as a new broker? Okay, I'm a new broker. I just got my authority. 30 days in, 60 days in, 90 days in. No shipper wants to work with me. I can leverage a factoring company to show them my NOA, say I got some leverage behind me, some backing, but what do I need? I need maybe a TMS system. Well, I don't have a customer. So why would I need a TMS system if I don't have a customer? I don't have nothing to manage. So that's an expense I can save. I do need a load board, right? So why not get a load board that has integration with all those features, like TruckStop, for example. TruckStop Pro has the load board, has ITS Dispatch, which is the integrated TMS system, and other features, right? Well, eCarrierCheck, new brokers. You can source shippers, you can source carriers. New brokers, those are the two clients you need as a broker. You need a shipper and you need a carrier. So keep your overhead low coming in new. Don't sell the farm coming in new. You're going to go under before you get started, right? So that's what I advise new dispatchers and new brokers, particularly coming in, because they're coming in gung ho. They want to just spend everything. I say you got to be smart with this, right? You got to think this through. What do you need to get started? You don't have a customer yet, so why do you need a TMS system, right? Dispatcher, you don't have a carrier yet, so why would you need this, or this? So think about what you're doing and put it in perspective. That's what I advise to my guys or my students. So
absolutely, honestly, it was amazing that he had all this technology stacked up, and I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on right now? Like I felt like we were in kind of Alice in Wonderland sort of situation. It was
so he was paying for stuff he's not even using.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, he was all in, and he had it all, and I was like, like you can, in today's world, all of the technology, whether it's 2 a.m. or 2 p.m, or it doesn't matter, you can pretty much push, here's my credit card and subscribe and have access to it in a matter of a moment. And so I'm with you, Charles. Let's build up that base and get a client, whether it may be a carrier or a shipper, and then
right. I'll say this. Look, guys, look, dispatchers, brokers, trucking companies, just get eCarrierCheck and be done with it. As simple as that.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the plugs. I do.
Definitely.
This is not a paid advertisement.
No, it's not yet. I'm not an actor. This is a real Charles Mundy. I play one on TV. I'm not a paid spokesman for eCarrierCheck. I'm speaking literally for eCarrierCheck because I love the flat platform. I love the user experience. I love the interface. I love the functionality, right? So, and eCarrierCheck is gradually integrating toward a full-fledged, all-in-one integrated platform. And when that happens, bye-bye load boards, bye-bye TMS systems, bye-bye spreadsheets, all of that stuff, right?
Yeah. So just come to the community and hopefully we can all kind of become one. Yeah. It's been no different than you, Charles. We're a bootstrapped company. We're grinding every day, every week. And it's one of those things where I think it's important that you grow this way because you get to feel the road. You get to see what's on the road. And sometimes there's bumps in the road.
Exactly. The best way to grow a platform is to experience it. Right? You have to experience it because now the bumps and bruises and your users will tell you, what are your next steps? It's okay, I don't like this feature or I like that feature. This doesn't function. The functionality of this is not the way it should be in my experience or the way it should be over here. So as you guys hear that, just like when Nate was with us in our trainings about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, we were saying different things. Okay, well, can we do this in addition to? I mean, we love what this feature is, but in addition to that, can it do this? Because we have an issue with this over here, and they say, yeah, let me look into this. So Nate was very engaging and wanting to make sure that the students got what they were asking for. Yeah, and that's what I love about eCarrierCheck. It's rare that you get a platform or individuals to talk to you about their platform in real time and willing to make changes. So Nate, you deserve a raise. But
thank you, Charles.
I love that.
I appreciate that, man. Like I said, your classes are one of a kind, truly the best community. Tire Killer, I didn't want to, we didn't want to overlook this because he provides great value.
Oh.
Tire Killer is actually a carrier.
Yeah, one of our
on
favorites.
every freaking day on our show.
Guy.
I love him.
This guy.
But he said, I'd be willing to abandon, or I would say be willing to abandon the initial load mentally.
Mentality.
Put some mentality.
Yeah,
Sorry.
okay,
Thank you. I can't read.
That's okay.
Put some effort into reloading the carrier after that load. So I'm assuming that he meant as a broker, maybe you can provide some more value for the carrier.
Oh my gosh. I gotta say, as a freight broker, and this is harder to do than you can say, right? To go find another load for that guy, it can be really tough, right? However, this is worth your time, is to build relationships with carriers and continue to use the same carriers over and over and over again. And if you can get them into their network, I mean, this is well worth your time to find those shippers that make sense for the carriers that you have. It can be tough. It absolutely can be tough. I know there's these huge companies throwing lots of money to take you from A to B and from B to C and from C to D. But guess what? There's so much fragmentation in this industry. Woo! It is.
Yes. So there's value alone, even on the broker, by even providing the effort to do that for the carrier.
Yeah,
absolutely.
The effort, even if you're unsuccessful, the fact that you've attempted to help the carrier, that's a value add. That's value in and of itself.
For sure. And honestly, this is feedback from a carrier, so I think all brokers and dispatchers should see that. Yeah, Tire Killer's been here since eCarrierCheck, since the Jesse update.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah,
one of a kind.
He's been here for a while.
Yeah.
We oh man, that's so good. I appreciate you, the loyalty there, Tire Killer. Obviously, Charles, you are always on YouTube, doing what you do. I see you go live, fairly often. Talk to us about, you're obviously providing value. What's that schedule so people can jump in on that from our YouTube channel to yours? Obviously, we have people from our channel watching you right now. What's your schedule when you're going live and you're out there talking about your business and providing value for those brokers and dispatchers and carriers?
Whew, that's a great question. The YouTube live schedule is varied because I jump on as the experience warrants me to, right? But I have the YouTube channels on the dispatcher and the freight broker side. I got, over 300 videos on the dispatcher side, about 150 on the freight broker side. So you can subscribe to that. But having a specific time for the lives, it's a hit or miss with me because of I may have an experience out and I say, well, let me share this with the audience so they can get some value from it. It's like that. It's not a particular set schedule with me, but it needs to be because I need to continue to have consistent engagement with the subscribers to continue to add value. So I definitely need to do that. So
I don't necessarily know if you need to actually keep it repetitive. If you're a subscriber, just hit that alert button and then you get notified. Hey,
the notification button. Yeah. So whenever I go live, it'll ding them. Ding. Exodus is coming live. Right.
Exactly. So, we're about to go to church. Let's sign up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's what I love about it is, so make sure you're hitting that. I think that's really important. Obviously, you grow through a lot of social interactions on the social media side of things. Is there a way for people to help make you, more prevalent? Can they give you Google reviews or are there things that really help you grow your business?
That's a great question. I'm not sure exactly, but I know outside of liking and sharing and subscribing to the channels, joining the Facebook group and things like that, staying engaged in the different social media platforms, the Facebooks, the Instagrams, and the YouTubes, that would be a way to continue to add value from the potential consumer side to our network. So that is, other than that, I mean, I'm not sure about the algorithms and things like that, but if they just stay engaged with us, we'll stay engaged with them,
Yeah.
And I give it to you honestly, according to the market. And if I can't answer the question, because sometimes that may be a case, I have two mentors, one who's a broker for over 36 years, one who's a carrier for over 38 years, that can answer the question. So, I mean, I have a backing contingent network behind me that can pretty much add. We got with their experience and mine, we're close to over 100 years of experience. So combined. So
I really think it's important. You know, we're continuing to get that question a lot. How do I, find mentors? And I think, through those social interacting, and I think mentors need mentors. And I really am a big fan of just having a network of people and taking that humble card and saying, hey, I can't answer this. I got a guy. I know this guy, and he's the best sand guy I know.
Right.
And let's just fill up the living room and see where this goes. If we can have a volleyball game, but I'm a big fan of having mentors need mentors, and just having conversations and trying to help each other and grow each other. There's nothing wrong with that. Charles, as we kind of wrap up here, is there any other advice you can give to these new guys that are watching today that are coming in saying, hey, should I get into this industry? And I want to flavor this with something that I saw that was really interesting. There was a study done, and I'll send this to you, Charles, so you can see this. And it wasn't specifically on our industry, but 4 out of 10 Americans right now are looking at changing industries, potentially out of necessity. However, 6 out of 10 Americans are actually looking at completely changing industry because they're burnt out. They don't feel it. And so there's a lot of people shifting gears right now. There's a lot of people, and I like to say that because we're in a trucking show. But there's a lot of people that are looking. I know. I just, what do you do? But there's a lot of people that are looking at changing industries, and how do you give them guidance? I think the university is awesome. The education that you bring to the house is awesome. But what can you say to those people that are going, man, should I do this or not? Should I really jump into this industry? It looks like it may be kind of challenging or crazy. What do you say to those people? And give us a little bit of that aspect.
Great question. Two-part answer. It depends on. So I asked the first part is I will ask them, what's your passion? Right? What are you passionate about? And if it's in this industry, transportation, for example, what are you passionate about? And then I'll say, define passion for me, first of all. And they'll define it, and then they'll say, I'll say passion is doing something that you love so much you don't even have to be paid for it, right? In transportation, there's some people who may be in here who may have reached their proverbial glass ceiling in their particular field, in their space. So that's what causes burnout, right? Okay, that's fair. Maybe you need to pivot. Maybe you need to shift. You can either shift and pivot within the same ecosystem or go outside of it, get a 9-to-5, or go into another industry. In any case, I would suggest them just think it through, right? Think it through. Do your analysis, do your analytics before you decide to pivot and get out of the industry completely, out of your ecosystem into another one. Or if you can't get past the glass ceiling, then maybe there's more, you need to learn some more things, maybe educate yourself a little bit more. And then the piece about the mentoring, Jared, you cannot be a good mentor unless you have been mentored yourself in the past, right? I had to have been mentored first in order to become a good mentor, right? I just didn't come out the womb mentoring people. I had to have learned from someone,
right?
So yeah, but yeah, it's challenging because today's economy, with the economy and the job market and things are going down and it's fluctuating in the seasons and stuff like that, people are at their wits' end and deciding, what should they do? Should I change my job? Should I get out of this field? Whatever. Analyze the market, see what's valuable out here. Like for us, for example, the transportation industry is not going anywhere. You just have to decide where in, and I keep using this word because it's a great word, where in the transportation ecosystem that you can maneuver. Where are you able to maneuver? Is it dispatching? Is it trucking? Is it brokering? And what's your budget within the ecosystem for you to decide? Just realize you're in a market that you can thrive. You just have to understand where to choose your place, what seat on the bus you're going to sit in in order to thrive in this, because it's not going anywhere. If the trucks, the only way it can go anywhere, if the trucks were to stop hauling freight right now, every trucker shut their truck down, the economy will crash. That's a true statement, right? Yeah. Because goods and services, particularly goods, have to be transported to the end retail stores for consumers to purchase it to drive the economy. Right? That's how the economy is driven. We are a large consumer nation and not so of a producer nation. We consume a lot of things. So consumption drives the economy. Okay. So if that was to stop, then the economy would crash. Where is transportation in that? Well, transportation is everywhere in it, from the suppliers to supply the raw materials, to the manufacturers who make the goods, to the transportation companies who arrange to transport those goods to the retail stores or the distribution centers, to the end user who goes to the stores and purchase the products. So transportation that's called the supply chain. What I just gave you, that is called the supply chain. That's the hierarchy in the supply chain, right? And every player has a major role in that chain in this industry or ecosystem for the economy to thrive. If one link in the chain breaks, guess what happens to the economy? Yeah. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So knowing all of this, you are entering in an industry that you can thrive in. Just position yourself in the right way. Like I often tell my brokers, how do you get shippers? Well, are you familiar with the supply chain, Mr. Broker? Are you familiar with going to raw material suppliers and say, hey, I want to arrange for the transportation of your raw material goods to your customer who's the manufacturer? Then next, hey, Mr. Broker, go to the manufacturer and say, hey, I want to arrange for the transportation of your finished goods to the distribution centers or the retail stores. Not only that, I want to know who you are sourcing your materials from to come to your manufacturing facility to make the goods. So I'm doing brokering in both directions, outbound and inbound.
Love that.
Right? Yeah. So it's just so much in the industry. That's where education comes in at. That's where the knowledge comes. Once you learn the knowledge is like a piece of a jigsaw puzzle. Different subject matters within this particular ecosystem, a particular transportation industry. Once you put all the pieces together, the puzzle is complete. And as you educate yourself, you gain another piece of the puzzle. You learn another subject matter. You learn another subject matter. You become what's called a SME. We call it a SME, SME, subject matter expert in particular areas: dispatching, brokering, trucking, warehousing. Those are all pieces to the puzzle. Once you put it all together, now you have a system, right? You will never go broke if you put it all together.
I agree completely. Boy, you hit.
That was well said.
Sure. Is your mic on fire there, Charles? What's going on here? But I mean, you're just bringing the house, man. It's a hot one. We might just rewind that the last 5 minutes, and we're just gonna call it a night right there.
Well, because in this industry, supply chain management or supply chain logistics is important, and understanding that and what the role players do and their function and where you can fit yourself in either as a dispatcher, broker, trucking company when you arrange the transportation is important for you, because now you know where to target yourself. If you are a trucker, you target yourself in front of the supplier to move their goods to the manufacturers. If you are a trucker, you put yourself in front of the manufacturers to move their goods to the distribution center or retail stores, or to go back to the inbound suppliers of the manufacturers. So you gotta understand how that works, the process, right?
Oh yeah.
And if you're a broker, you do the same thing. You want to arrange for the transportation. So
exactly. I gotta say, and I love that comment, Martin. There,
that's true.
Knowledge and patience will get you where you want to be. And then I thought George said something really interesting. If you are feeling burnt out, transition to a different type of freight or a different area within the industry.
Correct.
One of my favorite questions, this came a couple of weeks ago. I had a guy call me and he goes, hey, is this, I'm looking at, this is exactly, he had some issues. He's burned out on insurance and he was like, I'm going to jump into the logistics industry. And I actually mentioned your name. I said, you should probably get educated before you do that. And he goes, well, is this a good time? And I got to tell you a story. About 4 years ago, I was like, you know what? I am potentially one of the best investors in the entire world. I'm going to outguess the stock market. I'm going to download Robinhood. and so here I am. I put my $100 in Robinhood.
I know where this is heading.
and honestly, every time I guessed, I was wrong. Every damn time. it wasn't 60 days in the stock market ate my lunch. And it was like, and then my favorite part is, now I have to pay taxes and all this random crap. I don't even want to get into this, but I was the worst guesser in the stock market there was, right? And I told this guy this same story, and I said, I don't know if you can guess whether we're obviously in a down market, but if you're going to try to guess this industry of when to jump in, it's not going to work. No, you've got to take time, be knowledgeable, be patient, educate yourself, use people like Charles Mundy, who are truly, he's the godfather of mentoring. I can't get enough of this guy. Charles, thank you for being on the show today. You're friggin' phenomenal. And your education, your content is so good. How do people get in touch with you? Obviously, you put it up in the show notes there. Maybe we can reshare that. But I just want to make sure that people know, how do we get in touch with Charles Mundy? Because you bring the house, man. I'm just glad that we're going to be a part of you. So
I just connected my phone number and Excellence Logistics email. That's the best way to get a hold of me. And then I can, of course, the website I can put up there as well. But those are the two immediate ways to get a hold of me. So
I love it. We got those in the show notes. Charles, thank you for being on. I really appreciate all of the info. Nate, obviously, eCarrierCheck probably doesn't need any more plugging at this point. Charles,
eCarrierCheck.
I know, it just kind of went from there. So, guys, I hope everyone has a great weekend. Yeah. Thanks for being on.
Thank you, guys.
Charles, thanks for bringing the house, man. You have a great weekend.
You guys do the same, man. Thanks for